In late 1985, the Nintendo Entertainment System was released in North America. The NES quickly gained traction and became a smashing success story. The game experiences were leaps and bounds above the quality that had been on display just a few years before on the Atari. As the production values increased, games were being developed with the home player in mind. This is when games as we know them began to take shape. While these games possessed crude and rudimentary visuals and gameplay, they were the basis for what we now know as modern games. These games were made for challenge, but were also meant for enjoyment and for playing and progressing through whatever mechanics and landscape the developers chose to give you. And this is where things begin to get interesting. Whether it's a strange fantasy land with walking turtles and mushrooms that's being traversed by heroic plumbers in Super Mario Bros., or adventuring through a classic medieval-style adventure in The Legend of Zelda, these games began to build worlds, started to tell crude stories of all kinds, and generally led us to where we are today. Super Mario Bros. Was and continues to be one of the most popular franchises in gaming, despite the fact that the only story that was involved amounted to the now tired hero saving a damsel in distress scenario. In 2007, game writer and developer Jonathan Blow would release his now critically acclaimed title Braid. Lauded for its beautiful hand-drawn art and unique time-bending gameplay, on the surface, Braid was a fun and intriguing game. What would eventually gain Braid such acclaim and discussion was how the writer used the cliched damsel in distress archetype to subvert what would eventually be revealed to be a clever evaluation of people and their relationships. Throughout the game, you play as the hero Tim, as he tries to save his true love. But as the game concludes and its time-rewinding mechanic is turned on its head, you realize that you have been the villain all along, and that the damsel in distress is actually running away from you. While not the most shocking turn of events, it marked the beginning of game developers having a voice and giving game players some food for thought. Another example of the way that video games have been maturing as a medium is the expression of a writer being able to shine through. My favorite example of this is Ken Levine, creative writer and co-founder of Irrational Games. His games have generally been lauded as some of the best written and most thought-provoking games ever made. 2007's BioShock in particular was the game that immediately came to mind as I considered this topic. The game is about a man involved in a plane crash. After finding an obscure lighthouse in the middle of the ocean, he is transported to an underwater society called Rapture. This is when the influences of Ayn Rand's novel Atlas Shrugged and her philosophies on objectivism become extremely clear. This is a place where the best and brightest minds fled, so that they would be free of religion, government, and general societal rules. The catch here is that, without the regulations of government and society, the science was allowed to be pushed past ethical limits. This led to people experimenting with genes and changing what we think of as humans. This all culminates in a climax that again makes the player question the ideas of choice within games.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose rapture. A city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. And with the sweat of your brow, rapture can become your city as well.
In his follow-up, this year's BioShock Infinite, Levine decided to leave the underwater rapture and its themes of objectivism for the flying air city of Columbia. In this turn-of-the-century tale, he uses the setting to examine various themes, such as American exceptionalism, racial segregation, xenophobia, jingoism, and religious zealotry, just to name a few. Here we find a setting where the characters have taken to worshiping America's founding fathers as deities. This has led them to so strongly believing in their values that they have been perverted and used as reasons for wars and other atrocities. This is an examination of religion and national pride, and how it can be used as a crutch to justify whatever horrors you may commit.
And lo, if the prophet had struck down our enemies at wounded knee, and not railed against the Sodom beneath us, it would have been enough. If the prophet... Is it someone new? Someone from the Sodom below, newly come to Columbia to be washed clean before our prophet, our founders, and our Lord?
I just need passage into the city.
Passage to the city. Brother, the only way to Columbia is through rebirth in the sweet waters of baptism. Will you be cleansed, brother?
It's either this or turn around and get back on that rocket.
Hey. I baptize you in the name of our prophet, in the name of our founders, and the name of our Lord. I don't know, brothers and sisters, but this one doesn't look clean to me.
That idiot priest needs to learn the difference between baptizing a man and drowning one. I need to find a landmark and figure out where the hell I am.
So in conclusion, on the surface it may just seem like it's all about fun and games, but video games are just another form of expression, made different by its interactive nature. There remain fun little experiences made purely out of mechanic like Super Mario or Angry Birds. In the same vein, there can be more thought-provoking pieces like Braid or Bioshock.
He who crossed the Delaware.
Just like films or novels, there are a wide breadth of experiences for everyone. And there's also time for serious contemplation about diversity, inclusiveness, and how the medium can grow from here.
Just because the city flies don't mean it
Thank
ain't got
you.
its fair share of fools. All right. Still got a girl to find.